Sarah Lobigaiga de Rodriguez, Chief Speech Pathologist and Operatic Soprano at Voice Science, Melbourne's premier elocution and voice therapy clinic located on Collins Street in the CBD. Researchers have come to understand what acoustic features or sound wave vibration features make up the speech patterns of speakers who are charismatic that everyone wants to listen to. And today, I will share those features with you. In our clinic, we read extensively to keep up to date with modern research into communication. Here are some of our top tips that we recommend for our clients who are trying to be engaging and increase the impact of their communication on their listener. These strategies are very important if you are working on your public speaking skills, entering job interviews, starting a podcast, developing your YouTube channel, or just wanting to have the ability to persuade, convince, and increase your credibility as a leader in the workplace. Are you ready? The first thing that research has found is that if people are distracted and totally uninterested in the content of what you're saying, you can still catch their attention. So what is it that catches attention if our message is slightly boring? Vocal tone. Research shows, particularly in the area of advertising for radio, that the only thing that catches listener attention when the listener is disengaged is the tone of the voice. There's a specific type of vocal quality that listeners like. We call this resonant voice. Resonant voice is the product of very even vibration in the neck as you speak. If you place your hands on your voice, you'll feel the voice moving. Notice the vibration? For some people, it's very difficult to coordinate the vibration in the throat to get a very resonant acoustic sound that moves forward in the room. I'm not talking about volume. I'm talking about tone. I'll show you some features of vocal tone that do not make your listener listen. When the sound stream is poorly coordinated with the breath, we get creaky quality like that. Now, if this happens across your entire sentence, people won't listen as well. If this happens on individual words, particularly at the end of the sentence, you'll definitely lose your ability to sound credible and assertive. Have a listen to this statement. No way. That was used with resonant voice. I'll now reduce the resonance on the final word and listen to the impact it has on you. No way. This feature is called glottal fry. There is a massive amount of research supporting the fact that glottal fry reduces listener engagement, depletes the credibility of your message, and for some people is irritating. In our clinic, we encounter many people who are so convinced and concerned that they sound monotone. So let's talk about what that means. Monotone speaking is the product of speaking on the same pitch or the same musical note without any change. Let's make a statement. My name is Sarah. That was mostly monotonal versus my name is Sarah. What does research have to say about monotone? Well, obviously, it's not encouraged for English-speaking patterns. We do need the capacity to move and slide our pitch to match our expression. However, if pitch changes too much, research has indicated recently that listeners become distracted by the change of pitch and cannot absorb the content of your message. So while it's very important to sound expressive, it's important to not sound too expressive or people get distracted. This is essential if you're trying to convince and persuade. You really need your listener to take the weight of your words with authority and persuasion. And if your vocal tone is too expressive, it can sound artificial, insincere, and even distracting. The next factor is speed of speaking. Speech rate basically refers to how fast the words and syllables move from your mouth when delivering your message for your listener. So if I have a really rapid rate like that, it feels very anxious. It feels hard for me to maintain the clarity of my words and even my ideas. So it's really encouraged to use a calm, balanced rate. However, there's a catch. If we are too slow, a recent study has found that listeners start to trust us less. There is a higher correlation between a moving, flowing, and clear rate and credibility ratings. To make your message sincere, believable, and real, it's very important that you have the capacity to move your words smoothly at a brisk enough rate without slowing down too much, thus sounding less credible and authentic. At Voice Science, we spend many of our days building and optimizing our clients' voices. And one area that we work in a lot with is projection, the capacity to throw your voice across the room, to call the crowd to attention, to exclaim, or deliver your keynote speech with a bit of background noise. So volume is essential. It's actually critical that your volume matches the noise around you so that your listener can retrieve and dissect your message. However, is there any research about the volume of the voice and what benefits your message? Well, of course there is. And researchers have found that if you use a regular, very even volume, listeners like to listen more. It sets your listener at ease. So they took some subjects and put them in front of different types of speakers, some who had even volume, some who had sporadic changing volume, and it was found that a calm, even volume is much more engaging and charismatic for listeners. The next factor relates to other features that don't involve sound. Pauses. It can feel very cliche to consider that pause is power or leave a pause for effect. But what does research say about this? Pausing frequently and irregularly is not recommended. It presents a message that has rushes and bursts of speech that is distracting for the listener. Studies show that if your pause duration is quite equal as you speak, listeners find you more believable and interesting. Another study has looked at the impact of pausing before a key word, namely a brand name. This study found that listeners remembered the name of the brand if a pause of 2 seconds was inserted prior to stating it. For example, I work at Nike, rather than I work at Nike. By adding that pause before a key word or a vital word that you want your listener to remember, the listener is more likely to process it and retrieve it later. This is a really simple strategy that you could insert when networking, making small talk, or meeting someone new to assist your conversation partner to remember your name and thus build the relationship in the future. It might feel really superficial, but it's a way to insert a little bit of content that actually matters a lot so that your listener is likely to remember it. If you run a small business, this is a really interesting thing to add in your voicemail, in podcasts or vlogs that you're making. So we've talked through many features of vocal tone and speech that can benefit your listener engagement. The other factor that's really essential is to make sure you know what a healthy voice is. There are a few things that you can be doing immediately from today to ensure that your voice is working at its best. Head to our website at this link. There you can download an amazing vocal hygiene resource. This will talk you through various things that will impact on the tone of your voice, like hydration, allergies, being exposed to massive amounts of background noise, and many other things. Make sure you head to the website, download it, and put some of these things in place. They'll really benefit your vocal tone. Otherwise, if you notice any changes in your voice tone that last for more than 2 weeks, we strongly recommend you have an assessment with a speech pathologist. I hope you found this video enjoyable. If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, like it, follow the channel, no pressure, But if you like this kind of content, you're going to find lots of things in this direction. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram. We share many tips about corporate communication, as well as pronunciation clarity and vocal care. You might find it really interesting. To wrap it up, if you've got a friend or colleague who you think this video could help, make sure you pass it on. Share the love. My name is Sarah. Have a wonderful day. Ciao. Concerned about your vocal tone? Your ability to speak clearly and calmly when under pressure? Wanting to strategize your sales pitch or do so much better in job interviews to get the desired role? Why not head to our website and check out our elocution services? Voice Science, advocating for communication impact since 2013. Have a great day.